Thank you for joining us at this time. You are watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. The top stories. Federal government asks for a seat on the United Nations Security Council. Nigerian Air Force promises to abide by the provisions of international humanitarian laws during its operations. Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, begins recertification of all taxis as part of measures to tackle one-chance robbery in the territory. Details coming up shortly. Welcome back. I am Omoife Osemere. Now, the federal government has asked for the support of the United States on its membership in the G20 and a seat on the United Nations Security Council. President Bola Tinubu made the request during a bilateral meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. Addressing a joint press briefing after the bilateral discussions, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, said the discussions bordered on agriculture, food security, pharmaceuticals, security, and artificial intelligence. Tugar argued that Nigeria, being Africa's largest economy, deserves to represent the African voice on the UN Security Council, as 60% of resolutions passed by the Council are Africa-related. Tugar also disclosed that the bilateral talks included definite decisions on other issues, including the upcoming Nigeria-US Binational Commission holding between March 11th to 13th, 2024. Meanwhile, United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has assured that the U.S. would provide an additional $45 million to West African nations. According to reports, this is in a bid to battle instability, thereby bringing total funding under the year-old program to nearly $300 million. In a four-nation tour of African democracies, Blinken met separately with President Bola Tinubu and the Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara yesterday. It was gathered that the trip was to discuss U.S.-African partnerships over trade, climate, infrastructure, health, security, and other issues. Right, the Nigerian Air Force has promised to abide by the provisions of international humanitarian laws during its operations. The service said it was ready to engage with organizations such as the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, among others, to achieve this. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, disclosed this during the ICRC team visit to the NAF headquarters in Abuja. A statement on Tuesday by NAF's Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Vice Marshal Edward Gapquet, said Abubakar commended the ICRC for providing research and training assistance in various operation theaters and colleagues. You're watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, United States of America urges federal government to implement reports of various NSAS panels set up to investigate human rights abuses during the NSAS protest in 2020. Details of this and more after the break. Do join us again. Welcome back. This is news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Now, the troops of the 8th Division Nigerian Army, in conjunction with operatives of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and local vigilantes, yesterday raided a terrorist camp in Kebbi State. According to media reports, the troops during the operation killed one of the terrorists, rescued 4 kidnapped persons, and recovered arms and ammunition. This was made known by the Acting Assistant Director, Army Public Relations, 1 Brigade Gusau, Captain Yahaya Ibrahim. He added that all the rescued victims have since been reunited with their families, while troops continue to trail the wounded and fleeing terrorists. To other matters now, the rush by Nigerians to leave the country for greener pasture reached its crescendo in the new year as 32,462 persons have so far applied for international passport and uploaded their documents from the Nigeria Immigration Service site between January 8 and 21st, 2024. Of these applications, 15,113 have reportedly been approved for biometric capture and production, which is 50% of the total number. The summary of passport applications for the year 2024 was provided by the Comptroller General of Immigration Service, Caroline Adekboju, who was on a visit to Ikoyi and Alausa passport offices to see how things were working regarding the introduction of the automated passport application process. Briefing journalists at the end of the assessment, the immigration boss said, of the 32,462 applications, 11,505 were awaiting approval, while 3,406 who made payment were waiting for appointment. According to her, 1,438 applications were queried for various reasons. Now, the United States of America has urged the federal government to implement the reports of various NSAS panels set up to investigate human rights abuses by security agencies during the NSAS protest in 2020. The U.S. made the call at the United Nations Human Rights Council fourth cycle universal period review of Nigeria in Geneva, Switzerland. Addressing some human rights concern in Nigeria, a representative of the U.S. government asked the federal government to take steps to implement the NSAS report, amend the Nigerian Press Council Act to remove restrictions on freedom of expression, and review the standard operating procedure of the armed forces to protect human rights. Now, the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, in a measure to stem the tide of taxi robberies, otherwise known as One Chance, has said it would soon begin the recertification of all taxis as well as ride-hailing services like Uber and Bolt. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, disclosed this at a media interface in Abuja. Often posing as taxi operators, armed robbers and itinerant kidnappers use taxis to abduct passengers, rob them, and sometimes kill them. The miscreants had on few occasions reportedly held their victims for hours, demanding ransoms from their relatives. Noting that crime may not be completely eliminated in any state or country, Wike said what is important is to make sure that proactive steps are taken against the occurrences, or that when they do occur, the perpetrators are either arrested or the people protected. Asked whether the policy would apply to ride-hailing services like Uber and Bolt, the minister said, and I quote, "They would have to be registered too." The minister, who expressed surprise at that a world-class capital city like Abuja does not have a single loading terminal, said he hopes to establish at least 3 of such terminals. Now, to what extent can the ban of unpainted taxis and buses address the menace of one chance robbery in the FCT? Joining me now to discuss this is a public and security analyst, Comrade Salihu Mahmood Dantata. He joins us live via telephone from Kano State. Good afternoon to you, Comrade. Thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for wonderful analysis.
All right, we understand now that unpainted taxis and buses, are to be banned from operating, in the FCT. And according to the minister, this is maybe to, address the issue of one chance robbery. Of course, this is one issue that you've continuously, shared update with us, about. But what are your thoughts on this?
The ban on unpainted taxi was long due before now. I can tell you in the previous administrations of ministers we had in FCT, they took steps but to no avail. You see, one of the major problems we also have in FCT that crops up the use of unpainted taxi and kabu-kabu is lack of effective transport system. This is the Federal Capital Territory. They ought to have BRT buses like Lagos and other cities that conveys people from one place to the other. But in FCT, it is lacking. The one we used to have under Abuja Urban Mass Transport Company today, if you go to their yard along the Barak Expressway, most of them only ply to Gwagwalada from the Use or Bega area. But within the city center and to certain suburbs like Kubwa, Buhari, and Duse, Nyanya, other, it is very, very difficult. And for you to effectively succeed in banning unpainted taxi, then you have to have effective transport system. It is good for security, but sometimes also they need to take into consideration that one chance menace also is perpetrated also with painted taxi. There were times even where the ministerial task force in where arrested painted taxis with side numbers. During one director of DRTS, Major Arugungu, there was this system where every taxi painted must have side number, and those side numbers, when you come to the headquarters there, they get it. So I think the FCT minister is a good gesture, but he must further finance and capacitate the FCT Directorate of Road Traffic Services, known as VIO, as well as the ministerial task force made up of the VIO, DSS, police, armed squad of civil defense and immigration, who have among their purview the enforcement against unpainted taxis. It is going to be a good deployment, but above all, the FCT Transportation Secretariat must also refigure and revitalize the Abuja Urban Mass Transport Agency, that is outcome company, in order to have BRT buses like Lagos.
Thank you, comrade. But if you can hear me now, the minister has actually assured that he would also, introduce measures to ensure that at least 3 loading terminals, are put in place this year. Do you see that becoming a tall order for the minister?
You see, transportation has to be a two-way thing, both government and private sector contribution. If you observe, that of the Lagos is both Lagos state government and private sector improvement. Like I can tell you, there was under one particular minister where the buses for Abuja Urban Mass Transport Company were purchased, and even some 4307, it was under Nasir Rufai as SCT minister. Less than 2 or 3 years, it failed. So management also is one of the things. It is a different thing for the minister to procure vehicles, maybe through private partnership with government and what have you. Sustenance also matters, because mismanagement and corruption has made transport system not to be effective in Abuja. So if he must succeed in that, if it's going to have joint partnership with private sector, then the management of Abuja Urban Mass Transport Company, then the FCT Transportation Secretariat that has a mandate secretary must also be charged with responsibility of properly maintaining those vehicles and ensure that they follow those routes that they are meant for. But if you look at the influx into FCT, government alone cannot manage transportation system. So that is why the FCT minister need to collaborate with automobile companies like Peugeot Automobile, Kaduna, Innocent Motors that manufacture indigenous buses also, and other vehicles, and also Toyota and other vehicles like Anambra Motor Company that have assembly car assembly center in Nigeria. The government world over has never been able to solve the problem of transportation, so he has to collaborate and partner with private sector transport companies.
All right, comrade, but apparently you are optimistic that this development will be able to address the menace of one chance robbery. Is that it?
Come again?
I said, from all indication, you are optimistic that this development, if properly, implemented, will be able to address this menace of, one chance robbery.
That alone cannot address the problem of one chance. Don't forget, in Lagos, there was a case of a BRT driver who abducted a passenger.
Right.
That was caught. You remember that?
Right.
So it has to be, if this must be done, then the security must be briefed. The security agencies from civil defense, GSS, armed squad of immigration, police, army, and other must be road safety and VIO must be on top of the situation. Like I told you, there is a ministerial task force made up of the police, VIO, DSS, armed squad of civil defense, immigration, and others who are charged with this responsibility of curbing one chance menace, and also some of the divisions in FCT, then the DSS and also others. So they need to come and finance that ministerial security agencies in complementary role, so that this transport scheme is running, then when they find unpainted taxis and they don't give any reasonable excuse. But mind you also, there are restricted areas in FCT where painted taxis cannot fly. Like Presidential Villa, for instance, if you are going to catch appointment before you get to pilot gate, you cannot pass areas with painted taxi. There are security areas like a National Assembly, National Security Advisor's Office, and other areas where they will tell. Even there are some estates where they will say painted taxis are not allowed. And it's not in every area that when you bring these buses they can fly, except if they go back to a Rufai system where through the Abuja leasing company, under Abuja Investment and Property Development Company, where there were smaller vehicles like 307 and what have you that were also running as transportation vehicles. So they can also revitalize the Abuja leasing company in order so that they will think about the possibilities and impossibilities, because there are certain restricted areas also that these painted taxis cannot get to.
All right, comrade. Real quick, let's a flashback to when the minister actually assumed duty last year. Of course, the first day he assumed duty, he made so much noise about how prepared he is to eradicate every form of nuisance from the FCT. And at the time, structures were demolished, and he even called for an end to street hawking by the roadside and and the rest. But at the time, analysts had also come out to say that while you want to chase these people off the streets, you should also put in measures to accommodate them, because for some people who hawk on the streets, that is their source of livelihood. But will it be intelligent to say that the absence of such arrangements to accommodate these people is the reason why there has been increased cases of one chance robbery in the FCT?
You see, in 1994 in 10 New Nigerian newspapers, I did write on the plight of Abuja traders. The most deprived traders and workers in the whole country is Abuja. This is administrative capital. There are certain things you cannot wipe out completely. Even though the Abuja Environmental Protection Board has been doing a lot to stop, street hawking, the minister's riot act cannot gather momentum in 100%. Because I will tell you reason, when you have a society of illiteracy and poverty, what is the per income earning per poor person in this country? So the issues are there. Supposing it's a country where there is social security, you can say that no matter what effort, if you like, go to gas brigades, go to what have you, and bring the best shooters to stop them from the street, they cannot. Even Abuja Environmental, that is constitutionally taxed, to tackle that, has not been able to achieve 100%. So I think what needed to do within the SCT, there should be social intervention, just the way the humanitarian ministry is doing at the federal level. We have SCT, social development secretariat. Let the mandate secretary, he has director of welfare, Sani Rabe, who is well experienced, he has worked in different departments. Let there be social intervention, so that when you also create social security within the FCT, that then again there need to be how many people can pay for shops in order to peddle their product. It's very difficult. Even some of them, look at the Muslim market, for instance, when they came, they wanted to destroy the people that were earlier there and want to build the one they will pay 60 million. When they Rufai build out of area one, the same thing. So that is to say, most of these traders you see on the street were shops to be of low price. They will have rented shops. So the wicked administration should also liaise with one of these departments which is like a division, Abuja Market Management Limited. Thank God they have a target managing director, engineer Yakubu Abbas. Let funds be created through the Abuja Investment and Property Development Company to the Abuja Market Management Limited. There are virgin lands. Let more markets and shops be built to be given at lower prices. Go to area 2, for instance, you see open stores managed by Abuja Market Management Limited. They are not paying as high as area 1 shopping complex and other Wuse and others. They also, when you go to Gimbia, there are open shoppings, a farmer shop and also others. So those kind of open shops at lesser price needed to be built by Wiki administration. Let him empower the Abuja Market Management Limited in order to achieve that. All
right, comrade, on a final note, do you have fears that this recertification of taxis and buses, by making sure that they are all painted, do you have fears that this would be hijacked by these unscrupulous elements in the long run?
Well, the tax to repaint the unpainted taxis will not be hijacked, because already the FCT Directorate of Road Traffic Services is there. It's part of their responsibility. As this is given, the VIO who are called DRTs, the FCT, and they have a very enterprising, intelligent and hard-working director, Dr. Dr. Abdulatif Bello, who was Itato Director of Security Services. So since its inception, he has been doing a lot through the Ministerial Task Force to even apprehend some of the unpainted taxes that sometimes you see controversies generated. When you go to where you see a lot of them back. So I think under their close monitoring, the DRTS, we ensure that it is done without fear of favor, and there won't be room for corruption, and there won't be room for hoodlum, because in that department too, they have educated people. Some of them are even criminologists who know what to do. Sometimes they disguise. So I think I'm optimistic when it is properly monitored under the DRTS director. And again, we have a very hard-working transportation secretary.
Comrade, are you there? All right. I'm afraid we just have to leave the conversation here. Apparently, we're having, Comrade, are you there?
Hello.
Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think, have I answered my question?
All right. Thank you very much, Comrade. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Hello?
Yes, please. Thank you very much for talking to us,
Sure,
Comrade.
thank you.
All right, Comrade Salihu Mahmoud-Dantata is a public and security expert, and of course he joined us live this morning or this afternoon, I beg your pardon, from Kano State, Nigeria, to discuss, the recent, statement made by the FCT minister in collaboration with the FCT, of course, to ensure that unpainted taxes, and buses are taken off, the roads, and this is in a bid to address the issue of one-chance robbery, in the FCT. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I am Omo Ife Peace Osemere. Good afternoon.